You're sitting in traffic. Nothing is happening. No accident up ahead, no construction, no stalled car. And yet here you are, brake lights stretching to the horizon, crawling forward in little stop-and-go lurches for no reason anyone can point to. You inch forward, stop. Inch forward, stop. And somewhere in that fourth stop, you start wondering, where did this traffic even come from? Traffic engineers have a name for what you just drove through. A phantom jam. No cause, no crash, no bottleneck. Just a wave of braking that appears out of nothing and rolls backward through a line of cars like a shockwave. And phantom jams are just the visible symptom of something bigger. Something engineers call the fundamental problem of traffic. The fact that adding capacity to a road system doesn't reliably reduce congestion, and sometimes makes it worse. Keep that phrase in your head, because everything in this video traces back to it. Stick around, because by the end of this, you'll never look at an aerodynamic traffic jam or a new highway lane the same way again. Here's the thing about traffic. It feels like a simple plumbing problem. Too much water, not enough pipe. So build a bigger pipe. Cities have been doing exactly that for 70 years. Widening highways, adding lanes, building bypasses. And yet the traffic never actually goes away. Los Angeles has spent billions widening freeways since the 1980s and still ranks among the most congested cities on Earth. So the real question isn't, how do we build more road? It's, why doesn't more road fix this? Why does a system built entirely out of simple, individual decisions, turn left, merge right, tap the brake, produce something so collectively irrational? Start small. Picture a single lane of cars, all moving at the same speed, evenly spaced, like beads on a string. Now imagine one driver taps the brake for a second. Maybe they glanced at their phone. Maybe a bird flew across the road. The car behind them brakes a little harder to compensate. The car behind that one brakes harder still because human reaction time isn't instant. By the 10th car back, what started as a light tap has become a full stop. That's it. That's the whole phantom jam. No accident required, just human reflexes, amplified backward through a chain of vehicles like a slinky flopping down a staircase. Now scale it up. Instead of one lane, imagine a 4-lane highway at rush hour. Thousands of these tiny brake taps happening every few seconds, compounding across merges, off-ramps, and lane changes. Every driver who cuts across 2 lanes to catch an exit forces 3 or 4 cars behind them to brake. Every one of those brakes ripples backward. At this scale, congestion stops being about any single bad driver and becomes a property of the system itself. Density past a certain threshold guarantees instability, the same way water past a certain temperature guarantees boiling. There's a tipping point, and once traffic crosses it, the jam is no longer a possibility. It's a mathematical certainty. Push it to the extreme, and you get something almost absurd. Mathematicians have shown that if every single driver behaved with perfect robotic precision, identical reaction times, identical following distances, 0 mistakes, congestion at high density would still emerge spontaneously, just from density and flow dynamics alone. In other words, you could remove human error entirely from the equation, replace every driver with a XONDRC flawless machine, and traffic jams would still form out of thin air. The jam isn't a bug in human driving, it's a feature of dense flow itself. So here's where your brain jumps to the obvious fix. Just build more lanes, more capacity, less pressure. Problem solved. Except, it isn't. In city after city, adding lanes has been shown to increase total traffic, not reduce it. This is called induced demand, and it works like this. A wider highway briefly makes the commute faster, so more people who used to avoid that route, take transit, or drive at off-peak times start driving on it during rush hour instead. Within a few years, the new lanes are just as congested as the old ones ever were. Except now, more cars are burning more fuel to sit in the same jam. Wider road, same wall of brake lights. It gets even stranger. There are documented cases where closing a road actually made traffic flow better overall because it forced enough drivers to reroute or shift schedules that total system. Congestion dropped. Adding road can make things worse. Removing road can make things better. That's the opposite of what any of us were taught to expect. Take Seoul, South Korea. In 2003, the city tore down the Cheonggyecheon Elevated Highway, a major artery carrying roughly 168,000 vehicles a day, expecting gridlock chaos. Instead, traffic in the surrounding area stabilized within months because commuters redistributed across transit and other routes. Or look at Katy Freeway in Houston once. Widened to 26 lanes, making it one of the widest highways on the planet. And yet, by 2014, just a few years after the expansion, average commute times on it had gotten longer, not shorter. Then there's Bryce's paradox, a mathematical proof from 1968 showing that adding a new road to a network can increase everyone's total travel time, because it changes how drivers redistribute themselves in ways that create new bottlenecks. And in South Korea and parts of Germany, network planners have actually closed specific roads based on this exact math, deliberately removing capacity to improve flow. So, let's lay out the whole hidden architecture of traffic in order. First, the micro layer, tiny human braking delays that amplify backward into phantom jams, no accident needed. Second, the density layer. Once traffic crosses a critical density threshold, congestion becomes mathematically inevitable, not just likely. Third, the capacity trap. Adding lanes lowers travel time briefly, which pulls in new drivers, which restores, or worsens, the original congestion. This is induced demand. Fourth, the network paradox. Because drivers constantly and individually reroute based on which path looks fastest, adding a route can make the whole network slower, and removing one can make it faster. 4 layers, 1 root cause. Traffic isn't a plumbing problem, it's a feedback loop where the fix becomes part of the input driving the next round of congestion. So, back to you, sitting in that phantom jam with no accident in sight. What you were actually watching wasn't bad luck, or bad drivers, or bad infrastructure. You were watching thousands of tiny, perfectly rational individual decisions. Merge here, brake there, take the faster route. Add up into something nobody chose and nobody wanted. And that's not really a story about traffic at all. It's a story about almost every complicated system humans build together. Healthcare, housing, even the internet. We keep trying to solve collective problems with individual fixes. Build one more lane, hire one more nurse, add one more server. And we keep being surprised when the system just absorbs the fix and hands the same problem right back to us, slightly rearranged. The jam was never really about the road. It was about what happens when thousands of separate good decisions stop adding up to one good outcome. If that changed the way you'll look at the next traffic jam you sit in, imagine what it does to the way you look at every other obvious fix out there. That's exactly the kind of hidden logic this channel digs into every week. So if you want more of it, you already know what to do. Hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.